Today's topic is the 10-minute crawl test challenge, and you might be thinking, why on earth would I want to crawl for 10 minutes? Well, I was about to say it's great fun. I am a big fan of crawling, and I'm also a big fan of making other people crawl, which used to be a big part of my, military fitness boot camps. We did a lot of crawling. Obviously, they do a lot of crawling in the military, but also, like I said, it is great fun, and it is a great test to train for and to achieve. James, have you ever heard of? Do you know the film 1917?
I know it, but that was on Netflix, wasn't it? I was in Prime. I can't remember one of the two.
Oh, sorry, excuse me. Yeah, you've seen it, right? The World War One.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah. It's really good. It's all shot in one take as well.
It is, yeah. It's such a good movie, but randomly, it seems appropriate that we're talking about crawling today. I watched Graham Norton on Friday night, and the lead actor in it, George McKay, he was on there, and he was talking about an old movie he did, and now, for the life of me, I cannot remember what it was called right now, but he played a wolf, essentially. He played a wolf a man who was part wolf, part man, something like that, but he spent more time as a wolf. This is what I remember from Friday night. So he spent a lot of time in preparation for the role, crawling on all fours, which I thought was really interesting. So if you're not prepping for a role as a wolf, why on earth would you want to crawl?
In a roundabout kind of way. So brilliant.
I was going to say, there's a tenuous link for you.
Exactly. Fantastic. But I always go back to the old saying by Charlie Francis, the great speed coach, who was Ben Johnson's coach, and he says, if it looks right, it flies right. And there's something about crawling, particularly working with runners, that if you get this right, if they crawl well, it improves their gait pattern, it improves their ability to... I've seen people get faster run times, and I've taken them, stopped them from running, and gone back to basic groundwork and getting them crawling better, working on this crawl and going back to running afterwards. And it just flies right. I think that's the best way to describe it. Their gait pattern improves. Core coordination, reflexive stability, all this stuff comes in. Everything ties the body into one. Crawling is this fantastic drill that, yeah, you can use to beast people with and they can have fun with. But if you get the movement right, the movement of crawling done well, you can't cheat it. Because to crawl for 10 minutes, which is what our 10-minute test is, right? It takes time. You've got to relax into it. So it's just like it's working with the CNS. You've got to relax it. If you're too tense, you won't be able to do it. So it's getting core control, gait pattern.
If you're really tense, you'll never make that test, will you?
Exactly. Right, so it's really, really hard to get it all right. So, but it's just a foundational piece of tool, and we think it's really important. But it's a precursor to our advanced work, essentially. So it's a layer 2.2 test. It's not an early test. Our plank, it's a core test essentially, but it's a movement test as well. It's integrative core movement. But our first one is a 2-minute plank. So if you can't do a 2-minute plank, we're not going to let you do a crawl test. But a lot of people can cheat the 2-minute plank, right? They could be holding their breath in like clinging on for dear life passing the 2-minute plank, but they can't do it when it comes to the crawl test. And there's a way back we go do it as well. So like there's just a caveat of this as well, is that this was basically ethically stolen from the guys at Original Strength. They had this idea of doing a 10-minute crawl test, and what we've done is just added our little framework to it. So the idea is to do it, it's like it's called a box crawl test. You put an item on the floor, you crawl around it one way, complete one lap, then you change direction and go back the other way. So we're challenging the brain on both sides, right? It's a brilliant test. So if you go around in one direction, you can do fairly simply, but you're challenging the brain when you change direction, right? And you do that constantly for 10 minutes. There's a bit of a mental resilience there going on. It's all sorts happening here, but it's a great test to do.
It's surprising how many people struggle with the change of direction as well. They'll be fine going one way, and then all of a sudden they'll have to either crawl backwards and try and coordinate opposite arm and leg, or when they crawl the other direction, again they start to struggle with it. It's like, as you say, for runners especially, it's a great exercise because it's perfecting gait pattern. And it's surprising the number of people you see when they first try this test is they'll be going fine forwards, fine sideways, and then as soon as they try to go backwards, they'll start using same arm, same leg rather than opposite sides.
It is. It's and that's why we do it, because people think a 10-minute crawl test is just going forwards, but we're covering all angles, left, right, forwards, back the entire time. And we want to see how it flies and how the brain reacts to it. And it is, And if you want to make it even harder, you put an object on your back and make sure that object doesn't fall off, like a foam roller or something, or like a yoga block that sits in your lower back to make sure you keep that posture absolutely neutral as well. So it is a tough test. It's harder than you think. The first goal is always to get something to 5 minutes. But what we see is when we get something to 10 minutes, that's when the real changes happen long term. So it's a fantastic test that we do. It's harder than it looks, but you've got to prep people ready for it. If they can't do a 2-minute plank test, we're not going to ask them to do this.
No, absolutely. You say it's harder than it looks. I think a lot of people, if they saw the test, they go, well, actually, that looks pretty hard. But it is great for, your muscular endurance in your shoulders, in your hips, your legs, but also something we've spoken about previously as well. It's great for reflexive core strength. Why is reflexive core strength important?
God, so many different levels, so many different reasons. Like, you put me on the spot here now. Okay, it is literally, so everything comes from the core. Everything comes from the core, but everything you're working here. So if you're trying to kick a football, if you're trying to throw a punch, if you're trying to throw a ball, everything comes from here. So if you don't own that reflective stability in the core, you're never going to own true power. And it's like going to be the handbrake that's holding you up, basically. I think that's a very simplistic way to do it.
That's exactly where I was going with it.
Brilliant. So like if you have like these science boffins like say anything else, they can go into more depth. But that's essentially for us layman people, us stupid people like me and Josh, that's how we look at it, basically.
Yes, indeed. So if someone was going to, obviously, because you can put crawling into a workout, like I said, there's so many variations. It is fun if you're just kind of using it. I used to use it as a game at the end sometimes, we'd switch from like bear crawl to crab walk and stuff like that, and trying to, like a little game of tag. I know you've used that as well yourself, James. But if somebody wanted to train specifically, especially if they're a runner, again, I'll emphasize that, great for runners, to get to that 10 minutes, what would be some good strategies?
First of all is own the movement. So I would put a foam roller or something on your back. So if you start crawling forwards, and I'd have knees down to begin with. Actually, first of all, I'd go
baby crawl.
Baby crawl, yeah, knees down. So 6 points of contact on the ground. So can you do that first of all and follow this routine? And do you have proper, are you using opposite arms, opposite legs, as opposed to same side legs? Because people don't have that cross core pattern nailed down. So you start off with that. But then as you progress up to like the knees off the ground, again, it's all about quality of movement control. Start slowly. Start with, can you do it for 10 seconds? Can you extend that to 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 50, 60 seconds, and then can you do sets with it? So you start doing 2 or 3 sets, like 60 seconds work, 30 seconds off, 60 seconds on. Simple thing is to build up to it. In no time at all, if you get this right, you will then start to progress towards a 10-minute test and being continuous, I think.
Yeah. And I think doing that little trick of putting the foam roller across your back as well, it changes it, because somebody might think, oh yeah, I've got a great crawl pattern. Then they stick the foam roller on, and within like 2 or 3 steps, it's fallen off. So it's like, obviously, they don't have that hip and core control going on. So that's a really nice little tip. Any other tips?
Well, speed, hide, need. That was it. It's basically speed, hides, need. So like that's why I put the object on your back, to slow it right down, and try and go slower. Try and see how slow you can go in each of the things. Slow it right down. Speed makes it easier, but you're not doing it correctly. It's all about the control of the movement as opposed to how fast you can go for.
Yeah, exactly. Speed, highs, need is a great one from our good friend Dr. Perry. And also, try not to hold your breath. It's a good one, because I guarantee when you first start doing it, you'll be holding your breath. So try and breathe through the movement as well.
Exactly.
If you do give it a go, let us know how it goes. And if you get to 10 minutes, congratulations, because it is an awesome thing to do to get to that 10 minutes. And like I said, if you are a runner, it may well change your running forever. That is it for today. Please don't forget to rate, review and subscribe. And if you want to find out more about our system of training, go to strengthmatters.com/system.